Close your eyes for just a moment. Set down whatever you have been carrying today. The weight of it, the noise of it, the endless reaching and deciding and doing. Set it all down right here at the edge of this moment. Tonight, you are not going anywhere in a hurry. Tonight, you are somewhere warm. Imagine, if you will, that you have found yourself aboard a train. A great silver-bodied streamliner from another era, the kind of train built when people believed that travel itself was worth savoring. The seats are wide and cushioned in deep amber leather, soft and giving under your weight. A small reading lamp curves over your shoulder, casting a pool of warm light that seems almost golden against the dark night pressing against the window beside you. Outside that window, and it is thick glass, good and solid, the Pacific coast stretches away in the darkness. You can just make out the shapes of the cliffs, the silhouettes of headlands, and beyond them, invisible but deeply felt, the vast churning ocean, black and restless and entirely, beautifully wild. But you are not out there. You are in here. The rain has been falling for some time now. Heavy, fat drops that strike the aluminum shell of this carriage with a sound like 1,000 soft drums. Rhythmic, ceaseless. Almost musical if you let yourself truly hear it. It is the kind of rain that does not apologize for itself. The kind that simply falls, steadily and without haste, as though the sky itself has finally exhaled after holding its breath all day, and the train moves through it all, unhurried, steady, the rails guiding it along the edge of the continent with a quiet, rolling certainty. There is nothing you need to do right now. There is nowhere else you are supposed to be. The night is long, and the rain is soft, and this train knows the way. So pull whatever is warm around you. A blanket, a pillow, the quiet comfort of this moment, and simply let go. Let the rain breathe, hold for 10 to 12 seconds of rain sound before continuing. We are heading south along the coast. The great, dark Pacific keeping pace just beyond the cliffs. The storm has come in off the water tonight, as it sometimes does in autumn, broad and unhurried, draping the entire coastline in a silver curtain of rain. And we are moving through it safe inside. With every mile, the world outside grows wilder and more beautiful. And with every mile, this cabin grows warmer, quieter, more entirely yours. Let us begin. The train leans into a long, sweeping curve. You feel it not sharply, but gently, the way a slow river bends. Your shoulder presses ever so slightly into the soft leather of the seat back, and then the train straightens again, and the lights of the carriage sway for just a moment above you, and then all is still. Outside the window, the cliffs have risen. They are tall now, dark shoulders of ancient stone lifting up from the sea far below. You cannot see the water from here, not in any detail, but you can sense it. A vast, living darkness somewhere down in the deep black beneath those cliffs. And every so often, when the lightning trembles far out over the water, distant and soundless from inside the carriage, you catch a glimpse of white foam, the crest of a wave, enormous and rolling, breaking itself against the base of the rock far, far below. And then the darkness closes back over it, and the rain continues to fall. The sound of the storm is layered if you listen carefully. There is the sharp, bright percussion of the drops striking the window directly, each one arriving with its own small voice before vanishing into the general chorus. Beneath that, lower and more continuous, the rush of rain across the curved aluminum roof above you, a kind of hushing, like the sound of distant applause heard through many walls. And lower still, felt more than heard, the low resonance of the wind moving along the carriage's flank, pressing and releasing, pressing and releasing. And through all of it, beneath all of it, the rhythmic click and sway of the wheels on the rails. Click-clack, 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 click-clack. There is something almost hypnotic about that sound. The way it divides time into small, even pieces. The way it says, without words, we are moving, we are moving, we are moving. Not urgently, not frantically, simply moving. Progressing through the dark and the rain at a pace the body can understand. The pace of a deep, slow breath. Safe inside, with every mile. The coastal range rises and falls to your right, or at least you imagine it does, out there in the darkness beyond the cliffs. Mountains that were old before the first settlers came, ancient before even the peoples who named them. They hold the storms up, those mountains. They catch the weather coming off the Pacific and pull it close, wringing it out over the forests and the clifftops and the railway line that threads between. Tonight, they have caught a good one. You press your fingers lightly against the glass of the window, just a touch, just to feel it. And it is cold under your fingertips, not hostile, just the temperature of the outside world, the temperature of the rain and the wind and the dark. A reminder that the glass is the border, that on this side, your side, the air is warm and still, and the leather is soft, and the light is amber and close. You pull your hand back. The warmth of the carriage settles around you again like something worn and familiar. The train has been traveling this coastline for decades. Long before you were aboard tonight, before the roads that now parallel it were paved, before the towns at its stops grew into the places they are, this railway threaded these cliffs. Workmen drove the pilings into the headlands by hand. They blasted and carved and coaxed a path out of stone that wanted no path at all. In weather like tonight's, worse than tonight's, if you can imagine it, they worked in oilskin and wool, listening to the ocean below with a mixture of respect and something quieter than fear. Because the coast does not frighten, exactly, simply is. Large and indifferent and permanent in a way that puts things in their proper proportion. And they understood that, those men. And in their understanding, they built something lasting. They laid down iron rails on the edge of the continent, and the trains came, and the lights of the carriages moved through the coastal dark like small amber lanterns strung along the cliffside, as they do tonight, as you do tonight. The carriage shifts again as the train rounds another curve. Outside, The headland drops away, and for a moment, just a moment, the full breadth of the storm reveals itself. The sky is not black, but a deep, luminous charcoal, heavy with cloud that catches the distant glow of the water below. Rain falls in visible curtains out over the open ocean, great slanted veils of it sweeping eastward on the wind. The surface of the sea is entirely invisible beneath them, lost in the gray-white haze of water meeting water. It is immense. It is deeply, profoundly beautiful. And then the headland closes back in. The cliffs rise on either side, and the view narrows to the wet rock face immediately beside the tracks. And the rain sounds sharpen again, the droplets cracking against the glass with renewed purpose. And the carriage is your whole world once more. Warm, amber-lit, swaying gently, safe inside. You shift in your seat, settle deeper into the leather, which gives just slightly, just enough, the way a good chair always does, as if it has quietly learned the shape of you. Your shoulders drop. You had not noticed they were raised, but now, as they lower, you feel the release of something held for too long. The lamp above your shoulder hums faintly, not enough to hear over the rain, but enough to feel. A small warmth at the edge of your peripheral vision, a planet of golden light in the interior darkness of the carriage. There is no agenda to this night, no destination that demands your alertness, no arrival time that requires you to stay sharp, to track the minutes, to hold yourself at the ready. The train will arrive when it arrives, and the coast will pass as it passes, and the storm will spend itself over the water as storms always eventually do. For now, there is only this: the rain, the glass, the amber light, the slow, dependable music of the rails. Click-clack, click-clack, with every mile. The autumn has come fully to the coast now. You can see it in the few things visible, the dark silhouettes of the cypress trees that lean away from the ocean, permanently shaped by a lifetime of wind. Their forms are ancient-looking in the storm, twisted and low, their branches streaming eastward like the hair of something patient and weather-worn. Around their roots, the coastal grasses have gone to rust and amber and the deep red of the season, though you would not know it in the dark. You know it because you know this land, or you are coming to know it, here on the edge of sleep. The wildflowers of summer are long gone from these clifftops. The sea lavender, the golden poppies, the carpets of ice plant that bloom so improbably close to the salt and the spray, all resting now, all drawing back into themselves for the long, wet months ahead. Only the rain remains, faithful and recurring, the great seasonal rain of the Pacific coast, arriving each autumn like an old and reliable guest who knows which chair is theirs. It settles over the headlands, fills the creeks and runs the gullies. It darkens the redwood bark to almost black and makes the ferns glow a green so saturated it seems impossible. And it falls always on the rails, on the silver carriage moving through the coastal dark, on the thick glass of the window beside you. You notice, somewhere in the distance behind you, the direction from which the train has come, a low, rhythmic sound that is not the rain and not the rails. You have been hearing it without naming it for some time now, and only now does your mind place it. The sea, not the immediate splash and break of waves near the track, but something deeper, something oceanic, the long, building roll of a swell that has traveled perhaps 1,000 miles across open water before finding these cliffs. You hear the build-up, the suspension, and then the release. A deep, concussive boom that resonates more in the chest than in the ears. And then another, and another, They come in sets, those swells. Sets of 3 or 5 or 7, each one gathering itself from the dark offshore water and arriving with that same patient, enormous authority. Between sets, a moment of relative quiet, just the rain, just the rails, and then the ocean breathes in again and the next set begins its long approach. The train does not pause for them. The train continues its own rhythm, unhurried, threading the narrow margin between the mountains and the sea, and you are carried within it, warm and safe and still. Outside, somewhere in the darkness, a lighthouse flashes. You do not see it directly, just the faintest suggestion of light, sweeping once, twice, across the lower edge of the cloud bank far to the south. Gone as quickly as it came, swallowed by the rain and the distance. But it was there, patient and tireless, counting out its rhythm in the dark. Someone keeps that light burning. Someone tends it tonight in this weather, along this wild and rain-drenched stretch of coast. There is something in that thought, in the idea of a human presence out there in the storm, watchful and purposeful, holding a light against the dark, that feels like a kind of comfort. As if the coast is not simply wild, not simply indifferent, but tended. As if somewhere in all that immensity, a hand has been placed. We will come to know those keepers better before this night is through. But for now, just that single flash. Just the suggestion of it already fading behind the train. The carriage rocks, steady, slow. The rain drums on, and the great Pacific storm moves across the headlands without hurry, without apology, going about the ancient and enormous business of being weather on the edge of the world. And you warm inside, amber-lit, leather-cushioned, swaying gently on the rails. You let it. You let the storm be the storm. You let the coast be the coast. You let the miles unspool behind you, dark and rain-washed and beautiful. Click-clack, click-clack, safe inside. With every mile, the rain continues to fall. Your breathing has slowed. You may not have noticed, but it has a gradual, natural deepening that happens when the body begins to understand that it is held, that nothing is required of it, that the night is long and the warmth is reliable and the rain will not stop. Your eyelids carry a particular kind of weight now. Not the weight of exhaustion, though perhaps that too. More the weight of permission, the weight of having finally, genuinely stopped. The amber light above you catches the fine drops on the outside of the glass and makes them glow, briefly, before they streak downward and vanish. Each one its own tiny trajectory, each one arriving and then gone, replaced immediately by another, and another in the endless patient procession of the storm. You have been watching without watching. Your eyes have been open, perhaps, or perhaps they have begun to close. It doesn't matter. The train knows the way. The coast will still be there, dark and magnificent, whether your eyes are open or closed. And the rain continues to fall. Click-clack, click-clack, with every mile, safe inside. The lights of a small coastal town appear briefly, amber windows in the dark, a cluster of them, gone almost as quickly as they arrive. A crossing signal flashes red in the rain, its reflection stretched long and trembling on the wet asphalt of a road. No one is traveling tonight. And then darkness again, and cliffs, and the sound of the ocean, enormous and patient, keeping its own time far below. You are somewhere in the middle of this coast now. Behind you, The city you departed from, its lights and noise and the particular busyness of its evenings, has receded to the status of a memory, distant and belonging to another version of this day. Ahead, the destination, still hours away, still dark and unreal in its futurity. Here, in between, is where you live right now. Here, where the rain falls and the rails carry and the amber light holds. This is the Pacific in autumn. This is what it has always been. In all the years and all the weathers, this particular combination of stone and salt and rainfall and the narrow, human thread of the railway clinging to the edge of it. And tonight, you are part of it, passing through it as all things pass through it, quietly, warmly, at the pace of rain. There is a light out there. You may have noticed it before, just the edge of it, the suggestion of it, sweeping once through the low cloud bank to the south before the train carried you past. But now, as the train curves around the shoulder of the next headland and the coastline opens up ahead, you can see it properly. A lighthouse, white painted, though in this weather and this darkness it appears as something closer to gray. A tall, narrow column standing at the very edge of the cliff, where the land makes its final decision before surrendering to the ocean. Its light revolves with an unhurried, mechanical certainty. Once, pause, once again, and the beam sweeps out over the water, over the rolling, rain-pocked surface of the Pacific, and then swings back inland, briefly illuminating the streaming rain itself, making a cone of silver light that lasts only a moment before the rotation carries it onward. The train will pass it in a few minutes, but for now, let it be there in your vision, steady and revolving and entirely indifferent to the weather it stands inside. A fixture of this coast so permanent it seems to have grown from the rock itself, and in a certain sense it has. The first lighthouses came to this coastline in the middle of the 19th century. The gold rush had brought ships, enormous numbers of them, more than the coast had ever known, laden with supplies and people and the bright, restless energy of ambition. They came from the east, around the Horn. They came from the islands of the Pacific. They came, many of them, with captains who had never sailed these particular waters, who did not know the hidden reefs or the way the coastal fog could materialize in a matter of minutes, reducing visibility to the length of a man's arm. The results were, as you might imagine, not always kind. But we will not linger there. Those stories belong to the cold and the dark. And this is a warm night, and you are safe inside. What matters is what came after. What matters is the decision that was made, up and down the length of this coast, to place a light at every dangerous headland, to put a human being inside each tower and say, your task is simple. Keep the flame burning. Do not let it go out. Simple in its statement, rather less simple in its execution. The early keepers and their families lived in small dwellings attached to the base of the tower, sturdy, practical structures built to withstand the weather that constantly sought to unmake them. Stone, usually, or heavy timber with walls thick enough to muffle the worst of the wind. Inside, the rooms were modest. A kitchen, a parlor of sorts, a bedroom or two, the necessities arranged with the careful economy of people who understood that everything they needed had to be hauled up a cliff path by hand. They were provisioned by tender ships that came periodically, quarterly, sometimes less frequently, depending on the weather and the station's accessibility. Between visits, the keepers relied on what they had stored, what they had grown in the small kitchen gardens that somehow survived in the salt wind, and what the land itself occasionally offered. It was, by any measure, a solitary life. Not lonely, necessarily. Many keepers had families with them, children who grew up knowing the sound of the foghorn as intimately as other children knew the sound of church bells or schoolyards, but solitary in the sense of being removed from the ordinary flow of the world. The towns and conversations and small daily dramas of the coast existed at a distance, glimpsed on the rare supply day or the even rarer visit inland. What the keepers had instead was the coast itself, in all its moods, in all its seasons. Imagine a night like this one. Not so different from tonight, in truth, because these storms have been arriving on this coast every autumn for millennia, and the keepers of the last century knew them as well as you might know a recurring dream. The maritime storm moving in from the northwest, the barometric pressure dropping through the afternoon, the air taking on that particular quality of stillness that precedes the real weather, the kind of stillness that feels less like calm and more like the held breath before a word. The keeper would have felt all of this, would have begun his preparations accordingly. The oil for the lamp whale oil in the earliest years, then lard oil, then the cleaner burning kerosene that arrived mid-century and was treated, by all accounts, as something close to a miracle, would be checked and topped. The great Fresnel lens, with its hundreds of precisely angled glass prisms arranged in a shape like a glass beehive, would be polished one more time. Fingerprints were the enemy. Dust was the enemy. Any smear or imperfection on those prisms reduced the throw of the light, and a reduced light was a light that could not be trusted. The Fresnel lens. If there is one object that belongs to the poetry of the early lighthouses, it is this. They were designed by a French physicist in the early 1800s, intricate, magnificent things, tiered and gleaming, that could take a modest oil flame and project it into a beam visible 20 miles at sea. Some of them stood 6 feet tall, some taller. They were shipped around Cape Horn in wooden crates packed with straw, and the care taken in their transportation was the care of people who understood they were carrying something irreplaceable. And they were. Each lens was ground to tolerances that the craftsmen of the era achieved through patience and skill, and a kind of obsessive devotion to precision that is itself a form of poetry. The keeper would light the lamp at sunset, or rather, at the moment the natural light became insufficient to serve as a guide to ships. In fog or storm, that moment arrived well before dark. On a night like tonight, he would have been climbing the tower stairs in the mid-afternoon, lamp already lit, the beam already sweeping. The staircase of a lighthouse tower is a spiral. Always a spiral. This is not decoration but engineering, the tightest possible ascent within the narrowest possible structure. The keeper climbed it many times each day, hundreds of times each week. The treads were stone or iron, worn smooth in the centers by the passage of years and boots, and they turned in a continuous, unhurried revolution that carried him upward through the body of the tower to the lamp room at the top. The lamp room itself was almost entirely glass. A lantern room, properly speaking, its walls and ceiling made of individual panes set in iron frames, designed to let the beam escape in all directions. In a storm, the wind struck those glass walls with a force that could be felt physically, a constant, battering pressure, the tower swaying almost imperceptibly but perceptibly enough for a person who had learned to feel it. And inside that swaying glass room, the great lens turned. Slowly, endlessly, driven at first by a clockwork mechanism of descending weights. The keeper would wind it by hand every few hours, like an enormous clock, and later by small electric motors that hummed quietly in the lamp room's base. The light itself at close range was not something you looked at directly. It was a concentrated thing, almost physical in its intensity, and the keepers who spent years in lamp rooms often bore witness in their log books to the strange, hypnotic quality of watching the beam from the inside. The way the prisms multiplied and fractured and reassembled the light into something that seemed more than the sum of its components. On foggy nights, the light did not penetrate far. This was the hardest truth of the keeper's work, that the weather which most required a strong light was the same weather that most effectively swallowed it. Fog absorbed the beam within a few hundred yards, reducing the lighthouse's reach to a fraction of its calm weather range. And so the fog signal took over the foghorn, or in the earliest stations, the fog bell. Some stations had mechanical bells struck by clockwork. Others had cannons fired at intervals, a practice that must have made for a particularly sleepless kind of night for anyone within earshot. The horns that came later, great steam-powered instruments that produced a note felt in the diaphragm more than heard by the ears, were themselves a kind of comfort to the sailors offshore, even as they rattled the windows of the keeper's cottage. Because a foghorn, however startling, means a lighthouse, and a lighthouse means a known point, and a known point in fog, at sea, at night, in a storm, is the difference between the ships and the rocks. The logs kept by the early lighthouse keepers are extraordinary documents. Many of them survive in historical archives, slender, water-stained volumes written in the careful hand of people who understood that their records mattered. The entries are, by necessity, brief. Weather conditions, visibility, any vessels sighted in distress, any maintenance performed on the equipment. The language is practical and spare. Heavy gale from the northwest. Visibility nil. Lamp burning well. Lens cleaned. Weights wound at 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. But occasionally, not often, but occasionally, something else appears. A sentence that steps slightly outside the official record and into the personal. The storm tonight is very grand. Or, counted 18 ships passing in the forenoon, all heading south, all making good headway despite the weather. A comfort to see them safely past. Or simply, very quiet. Rain all day. The children found a seal on the rocks below. In those small departures from the official record, you can hear a person. Stationed on a cliff at the edge of the continent, keeping a light burning through weather that would have made most people seek the deepest possible interior, and finding, in the midst of it all, something that might be called contentment. There is a particular temperament that suits the lighthouse. It is not, interestingly, the temperament of solitude for its own sake, of the hermit or the recluse, who removes themselves from the world out of a distaste for it. The keeper's records suggest something different, a deep attentiveness, a capacity to find meaning in the repetitive, the cyclical, the enduring. The same storm again, the same lens again, the same weights to be wound, the same log to be written, the same beam sweeping out over the same dark water, and yet never quite the same, because the coast itself is never quite the same. The quality of the light on a given evening, the particular shade of green in the water before a storm, the way the fog comes in on a Tuesday in November as opposed to a Thursday in March. The keepers noticed these things. Their logs tell us so. And in noticing them, in making a practice of noticing them year after year, through all the weathers and the seasons, they became something the English language does not have a precise word for. Intimate with a place, woven into it, not separate observers standing outside the coast and looking in, but part of the coast itself, as much as the cypress trees bent by the wind or the grass that clings to the clifftop soil. Tonight, as your train moves through the storm, you pass another station. This one is dark decommissioned, as most of the old lighthouses along this coast eventually were, superseded by automated equipment and GPS navigation and all the invisible technologies that now do what the keepers once did with oil and glass and their own vigilant presence. The tower still stands. You can see its shape against the slightly lighter darkness of the cloud, a narrow column on the headland, its lamp room empty and unlit, its cottage windows blank. There is a particular kind of quiet that comes with looking at a thing that was once alive with purpose and is now still. Not sad exactly, not tragic, more the way you feel when you come across an old photograph, a recognition that time moves through everything, that purpose and presence and the particular warmth of an occupied place all shift and change and eventually, gently, become something else. History, memory, the beautiful fact of having been. The old lighthouse stands. The rain falls on it as the rain fell on it 100 years ago, when the keeper's wife kept a kitchen garden at its base and the children climbed the rocks below for sea glass and the lamp burned through every night from dusk to dawn without exception. The rain falls on it the same. The cliffs below it are the same. The ocean, patient and enormous, going about the ancient business of being the Pacific, is the same. Only the light is gone, and even the absence of it has its own kind of peace. The automated buoys offshore do the work now. The charts on every vessel's navigation system carry more information than any keeper's log ever could. The coast is not unguarded. It is simply guarded differently. And somewhere in an archive, in a climate-controlled room in a city up the coast, a small, water-stained journal records, in careful handwriting, storm from the northwest, very heavy seas, lamp burning well, all vessels safely passed. Safe inside, all vessels safely passed. You lean your head against the cool glass of the window. You can feel the vibration of the train through it, a fine, continuous tremor that travels from the rails through the wheel bogies, through the carriage walls, and into the glass and into your temple where it rests. It is not unpleasant. It is, in its way, grounding, a reminder of all the moving parts working quietly together to carry you through the night. The amber light of the carriage reflects in the glass before you, layered over the darkness outside. You can see yourself very faintly, just a shape, an impression, not enough to be distracting. More like a companion, the suggestion of a person, present and unhurried, watching the coast go by. The lighthouses continue to stand along this entire stretch of coast. If you were to travel it in daylight and in calm weather, you would find them at intervals, some restored and open to visitors, some tended by historical societies who paint them and maintain them and keep alive the particular care that places deserve when they have earned it. Some still operational in a technical sense, their automated lights still sweeping, their fog signals still sounding, just without the keeper who once climbed the spiral stairs at midnight to wind the weights. Their lights still count the same rhythm. Once, paused, once again, as they did when the keepers climbed to them in weather like tonight's, oil in hand, logbook under their arm, the storm making its full announcement against the glass walls of the lamp room and the great Fresnel lens turning, sending its beam out over the dark water. Patient, tireless, a light held against the night. The train curves away from the last headland now, and the lighthouse that had been visible to the south slips behind a ridge of coastal rock and is gone. In a few miles, the track will dip slightly, moving through a long, forested section where the Redwoods crowd close on the inland side and the ocean is only a sound, felt more than seen, from somewhere beyond a line of low cliffs. The rain does not change with the landscape. The rain is faithful. It falls on the exposed headlands, and it falls on the sheltered redwood canopy, and it falls on the roof of this carriage, and it falls on the rails ahead, making them gleam in the darkness like two lines of pewter drawn through the forest. And the train follows them, steadily, unhurried, click-clack, with every mile, safe inside. The rain continues to fall. The train has moved inland, not far a mile, perhaps two, from the clifftops where the storm has been putting on its full display, but enough that the redwoods have closed in on either side of the track, their great dark columns rising out of the rain-soaked undergrowth and lifting up into a canopy so dense that even now, in the deepest part of the autumn storm, much of the rainfall never reaches the ground at all. It is caught by the needles, gathered into drops along the branches, and released slowly, a kind of second rain, quieter and more considered than the original, filtered through the biology of trees that were old before this railway existed. You can hear the difference if you listen. The sound on the carriage roof is softer here, less the sharp crack of open coast rainfall, more the steady, enveloping hush of rain in a forest, the way it seems to come from everywhere at once, from above and from the air itself, creating a kind of acoustic enclosure that feels, inexplicably, even more sheltering than the open storm. As if the trees are helping, as if the forest has taken the storm and translated it into something more bearable, more intimate, more like a lullaby and less like a pronouncement. It is here where the coastal tracks meet the edge of the redwood groves that the railway maintenance cabins were built. Small things, purposeful things, constructed without any particular architectural ambition beyond the practical, a single room, sometimes two, with walls of rough-cut timber that have darkened over the decades to the color of the forest floor itself. A steeply pitched tin roof to shed the rain. A chimney of river stone, a window or two set deeply into the thick walls, their glass old enough to have developed the faint waviness that old glass develops, the kind that makes the world outside look as though it is being seen through very still water. These cabins were placed at intervals along the line, every 8 or 10 miles, roughly, to house the section gangs that maintained the track, and later, the individual inspectors whose job was to walk their assigned length of rail after every significant storm, checking for washouts, for rockfall, for the small and not so small ways that weather and time conspire to undo the work of human hands. Tonight, one of those cabins is occupied. His name does not matter. What matters is that he is here, a man of some years, with the particular unhurried quality of someone who has spent a long career in the company of weather and has arrived at a complete understanding with it. He is not young. His hands, resting now on the arms of the wooden chair beside the stove, are the hands of someone who has used them broad and weathered, with the particular stillness of hands that are accustomed to work and have, for this evening, been given permission to rest. The stove is the heart of the cabin. It is a small cast iron thing, black and slightly domed at the top, set on a square of slate tile in the corner nearest the door, placed there deliberately, so that anyone coming in from the rain encounters its warmth immediately as a welcome. The firebox door is slightly ajar tonight, the way he has learned to leave it when the draw is good and the wood is dry, and the light from within amber and dancing and alive spills out across the slate and the nearest section of bare wooden floor. The wood he has been burning is madrona, cut and split and stacked under the lean-to outside last summer. Madrona burns hot and clean and with a faint sweetness that is not quite a scent so much as an atmosphere, something that changes the quality of the air in the room, makes it feel older somehow, more settled, more like a place that has been inhabited for a very long time. On top of the stove, a small pot, not elaborate, just water brought to a simmer earlier and now kept there for the tea, for the simple comfort of having something warm on the stove, for the small ribbon of steam that rises from the pot's lid and occasionally catches the firelight and glows briefly gold. He has made his tea. It sits beside him in a heavy ceramic mug, the kind that retains heat well and fits the whole hand around it comfortably. He is not drinking it particularly. He is more holding it, feeling its warmth in the palms of his hands. The reliable, uncomplicated warmth of a hot drink on a wet night. One of the oldest and simplest pleasures available to a person. Outside, the rain is doing what the rain does. He has heard a great many rainstorms in this cabin over the years. He knows the particular sound of this roof, the way a heavy drop sounds different where the tin has aged and slightly warped near the north eave, a slightly lower note, almost resonant, compared to the brighter tap of rain on the newer sections near the peak. He knows the rhythm of the gutters, where they run freely and where they catch, and the sound each one makes as it fills and overflows. He knows the rain the way you come to know a neighbor's habits when you have lived beside them for a very long time. Not intrusively, just familiarly, reassuringly. The cabin has one bookshelf. It runs along the wall to the left of the stove, built directly into the timber framing, its shelves slightly bowed in the middle from the weight of what they carry. The books are a varied collection, some left by previous occupants of the cabin, some brought by himself over the years, a few whose spines have faded enough that the titles require a tilt of the head and a moment of squinting to read. There is a field guide to coastal birds, its cover water-stained. There is a history of the railway, officially published and formally bound, that has nevertheless been read enough times that its spine has softened and its pages have developed the particular suppleness of a frequently handled book. There is a novel or two. There is a collection of maps. He is not reading tonight. He has a book open in his lap, one of the maps, actually, an old topographic survey of this section of coast, its contour lines dense and brown, the railway marked as a thin double line threading through the terrain with the pragmatic elegance of a thing designed to solve a genuine problem. He is looking at it in the way you look at something familiar, not because you need to know what it shows, but because looking at it is itself a form of rest. His section of track runs from the creek crossing 3 miles to the north down to the stone culvert at the south end of the grove. A little over 6 miles of rail that are, in a very real sense, his. He knows every curve of them, every spot where the drainage runs a little slow after heavy rain, every place where the autumn throws down enough leaf matter to require clearing, every tie that has been replaced in the last 5 years, and every one that will need attention in the next 2. Tomorrow morning, early, he will walk it, rain or no rain, and there will still be rain by the look and feel of this storm, which has the quality of a system that intends to stay for a while. He will pull on his oilskin and his heavy boots, the ones with the worn left heel that he keeps meaning to have resoled and never quite manages to, and he will take his inspection kit and his log book in its waterproof sleeve, and he will walk north to the creek crossing first, then south to the culvert, and he will note everything that needs noting. But that is tomorrow. Tonight, there is the fire, the tea, the map, the rain on the tin roof, the particular satisfaction of a person who is exactly where they are supposed to be, doing exactly what they are supposed to be doing, which tonight is nothing at all. He has earned this, not in any dramatic sense, not the way a person earns something through crisis or sacrifice or the kind of effort that leaves visible marks. More quietly than that, the accumulation of years of early mornings and wet walks and careful attention to things that most people never think about. The rails that carry the trains, the drainage that carries the water away from the rails, the small, continuous, unglamorous work of keeping a line safe. He has done it well. He does it still. And tonight, the storm is doing the inspecting for him, running its own assessment of every culvert and drainage channel on the section, testing the capacity of every ditch, prodding every potential weakness with the patient insistence of falling water, which will always eventually find the low point. He trusts the work. That is the deepest form of rest, not the absence of responsibility, but the confidence in the preparation. The knowledge that the culverts are clear, that the drainage is good, that whatever this storm delivers to his section of track tonight, it will be handled. Until morning, then, until the inspection that will confirm what he already knows. The fire speaks occasionally, not loudly, a small pop, a shift of timber, the brief intensification of the glow through the stove door's gap as a pocket of trapped air releases. These are the small punctuations of a wood fire at its most comfortable, past the early volatility of fresh-lit wood and settled now into the long, even burn of coals and well-dried hardwood. The cabin responds to these sounds as an old building responds. Small creaks and settlings in the timber frame, the roof ticking as the metal expands and contracts with the changing temperature. In another context, these sounds might be startling. Here they are simply part of the cabin's voice, the way it participates in the conversation of the night. Outside, something moves in the undergrowth. He does not look up. He knows this sound too, one of the coast deer, probably, moving through the forest edge in the rain with that particular deliberate quietness that deer have, as if they are always in the process of deciding whether to be alarmed. They come close to the cabin on nights like this. He has seen them in the morning, their hoof prints in the soft mud near the woodpile, evidence of a nighttime proximity that they never quite permit in daylight. The deer passes. The undergrowth settles. The rain continues on the tin roof, patient and unhurried, and the fire continues in the stove, and the man in the wooden chair continues in his particular state of restful wakefulness. Not asleep, not exactly, but not fully present in the way that the daytime requires either. Somewhere in the middle, in the comfortable borderland between the two. You have seen this kind of peace before, perhaps. Or perhaps you have felt it in a specific room on a specific night when the weather outside was doing something large and you were inside and warm, and the contrast between the two created a quality of shelter that went beyond the merely physical. That feeling of the walls earning their place, of a roof being exactly what a roof is for. That is what this cabin is tonight, and he has known it long enough that he no longer needs to name it. He simply inhabits it, simply lets the fire be the fire and the rain be the rain and the night be the long, uncomplicated, restorative thing it is. The redwoods do not sleep exactly in winter. They slow. They draw inward. The enormous upward work of lifting water hundreds of feet from root to canopy. That astonishing hydraulic effort that occupies a living redwood through the long dry summer eases when the rains come. The tree simply stands in the rain and absorbs. Lets the water find it. Lets the season do what the season does. There is something in that worth considering. The oldest of these trees have been standing through autumn storms for 2,000 years, perhaps longer. Storm after storm, century after century. The rain arriving from the Pacific and the redwoods receiving it with the unhurried patience of things that understand, in whatever way trees understand anything, that the rain will come and the rain will pass and they will still be here. 2,000 years of autumn rain. And here is tonight, this specific night, this specific storm, adding itself to that immeasurable accumulation. One more October, one more maritime system sweeping in from the northwest. One more evening of rain on the tin roof and fire in the stove and the tracks running straight and sound through the middle of the grove. He shifts in his chair, sets the map aside on the small table to his right, where his mug has left a ring of warmth on the wood, a pale circle that will still be there in the morning, faint evidence of a comfortable evening. He takes a last sip of his tea, which has cooled now to just the right temperature, no longer hot enough to require caution, warm enough still to be satisfying all the way down. He sets the mug down beside the ring. The fire has settled further, the coals glowing a deep and steady amber beneath the remaining wood. It will burn for another 2 or 3 hours without attention. The cabin will hold its warmth through the night. He will sleep in the chair, probably. This is not unusual. The chair is old and deeply shaped by the particular geography of a person who has sat in it for many years, and it receives him in the way that only furniture of long acquaintance can completely, without adjustment, as if the sitting down is a kind of homecoming. Outside, the rain continues. The redwoods stand in it. The tracks run straight and gleaming through the dark, receiving the rain and giving it back as reflection. 2 long lines of silver light in the forest floor's blackness, running north and south to the edges of what can be seen and then beyond. And somewhere out on those tracks, moving through his section of forest right now, the train passes. He hears it before he sees it, the low, rolling vibration that arrives through the ground before the sound arrives through the air. A trembling of the earth that he has learned to feel in the soles of his feet, even indoors. Then the sound builds, the wheel rhythm over the rail joints, the deep note of the locomotive at low speed through the grove, the rush of displaced air that moves through the trees on either side of the track like a wave through water. The light of the carriages moves through the forest. Amber rectangles, sliding between the dark columns of the redwoods, one after another, each one a small, warm world moving through the wet, dark passengers inside, perhaps sleeping already, perhaps watching the forest go by with the unfocused gaze of the almost asleep. He watches it pass from his chair by the fire, through the deep-set window, its old glass making the lights waver slightly, giving them the quality of candlelight, of lanterns, of something warm and carried by hand through the dark. And then the last carriage clears the tree line, and the sound recedes south, and the forest settles back into its rain-soaked silence, and the only thing moving is the rain and the fire and the barely perceptible rise and fall of the man in the chair, whose eyes have closed. The mug is warm by his hand. The fire asks nothing of him. The rain on the tin roof says, "Sleep now, sleep now, sleep now." Let the rain breathe, slow, full, unhurried, holding the sound of rain on tin for 25 seconds. And here, in this quiet place in the middle of the forest, in the middle of the storm, in the middle of the long and sheltered night, you feel it too. That same permission, that same loosening of the thing that has been held. The rain on whatever roof is above you says the same thing it says to the man in the cabin, to the redwoods in the forest, to the tiles of the lighthouse keeper's cottage on the headland behind you, to the silver roof of the carriage in which you rest. Sleep now, sleep now. The tracks are sound. The light is kept. The fire is burning. Safe inside. With every mile, the rain continues to fall. The train has turned, gently, without drama, just the long, slow arc of the track curving away from the coast and angling slightly inland, the way the line has always done here, where the final headlands give way to the broader coastal plain and the ocean, which has been your constant companion through this long and beautiful night, begins at last to recede. You feel the change before you understand it. The quality of the darkness outside the window shifts, less vertical, less clifftop, more open. The silhouettes of the headlands that have been framing your view all night drop away, and the sky, lower and heavier with cloud, opens up in a wide, uninterrupted arc that seems almost generous after the dramatic narrowness of the coastal passage. And the sound changes. The deep, concussive boom of the ocean, which has been so constant for so long that you had ceased to hear it as a separate thing, had folded it into the general texture of the night, begins, almost imperceptibly, to diminish. Wave by wave it withdraws. Not gone, not yet, and perhaps not entirely tonight, but moved to a greater distance, reduced to something you feel only faintly now, the way you feel a bass note through the walls of a room rather than directly in the ear. The rain remains. The rain is faithful. The lounge car is toward the rear of the train. You have made your way there through the sleeping carriages with their amber corridor lights and the occasional soft sound of breathing through a half-open compartment door, through the small junction between cars where the night air briefly reaches you, cold and carrying the scent of rain on warm metal, and then through the door into the lounge, and the warmth closes around you immediately, like stepping into a different idea of the same night. It is a beautiful room. That is the only honest thing to say about it. It is simply genuinely beautiful, in the way that the best design of its era was beautiful, with a confidence and a completeness that does not require explanation or apology. The Art Deco sensibility at its most livable. Not the harsh geometry of its more severe expressions, but the warmer, more organic version. The one that understood that people would actually inhabit these spaces and softened its angles accordingly. The ceiling curves gently downward at the edges, its ivory lacquer panels separated by thin bands of polished walnut that catch the light and multiply it. Along the upper walls, a frieze of low-relief decoration runs the full length of the car-stylized waves and sea creatures and the long, horizontal lines that the era loved, suggesting speed and modernity and the forward movement of a civilization that still believed, then, in the romance of going somewhere. The wall sconces are amber-glassed. Every one of them, they throw their light upward and outward in soft fans that overlap and blend until the entire ceiling seems to glow from within. like something lit by a source that cannot quite be located. The seats are arranged in small groupings, pairs of chairs facing each other across low tables. The chairs upholstered in a deep teal fabric that has faded very slightly over the decades to something richer than its original color. The way fabrics age when they are good quality and well cared for. The wood of the tables is the same walnut as the ceiling panels, its surface bearing the faint patina of many years of cups and elbows and the small transactions of people in transit. A bar runs along one wall, dark wood and brass fittings, its shelves holding the bottles and glassware in neat rows behind a counter of polished black granite that reflects the amber sconces in long, liquid streaks of light. You have found a seat by the window. Of course you have. The window here is larger than the one in the standard carriage, a broader, more generous pane, set in a frame of chrome and dark rubber, angled very slightly outward at the top in the streamliner style. Beyond it, the coastal plain moves past in the darkness and the rain flatter now, the land spreading out toward whatever lies inland, its character less dramatic than the cliffs but no less present, no less itself. The rain on this window is different, softer, as everything has become softer in this last hour of the journey. The drops arrive without the sharp insistence of the open coast storm, settling instead into long, quiet streaks that run diagonally across the glass in the train's forward motion, each one a thread of reflected amber light drawn gently downward. Your drink is warm in your hands, whatever it is, and it is exactly what you would want it to be on a night like this, at this hour, in this room. It is warm, and it is the right temperature, and the mug or the glass or the cup is the right weight, familiar in the way that only the things we reach for by instinct can be familiar. You hold it without drinking for a moment, just the warmth of it traveling through your palms, meeting the warmth of the room, meeting the warmth of the amber light, meeting the warmth that has been accumulating in you all night, since the first moment you settled into the leather seat and felt the train begin to move and understood, somewhere below the level of thought, that tonight you were held. The lounge is nearly empty at this hour. A couple sits at the far end, their voices too low to carry, just the shape of conversation, the rise and fall of it, comfortable and without urgency. Near the bar, a single figure with a book, reading with the particular absorption of someone who has found exactly the right chapter at exactly the right moment. Otherwise, stillness. The kind of stillness that is not absence but presence. The presence of a room at rest, doing what a room does when the people within it have let go of the need to fill the silence. The sconces glow. The rain streaks the windows. The train moves through the dark coastal plain with its steady, unhurried certainty. You take a sip of your drink. The warmth of it moves through you from the inside now, meeting the warmth coming from outside. And for a moment you are aware of yourself as a kind of vessel held and holding, warm through and through. The boundary between inside and outside softened to the point of near irrelevance. This is the feeling the whole night has been building toward. Not arrived at through any effort. Not achieved through any particular intention. Simply accumulated. The way warmth accumulates in a room with a good fire when no one opens the door. The way the night's hours have added themselves together into this one specific quality of rest. The Art Deco frieze along the upper wall catches your eye. The stylized waves running in their low relief across the lacquered panel. You have been looking at them without seeing them, but now you see them, and there is something quietly right about their presence here, on a train that has spent the night running along the edge of the Pacific. Someone designed that frieze knowing this, knowing that the passengers who rode this car would have the ocean in their recent experience, its rhythm still in the body somewhere, And so they put the ocean on the walls, translated into geometry, into the clean abstraction of the era's aesthetic, but unmistakably, comfortingly, the ocean. The same ocean that has been out there all night, roaring and crashing and being entirely, magnificently itself. And here it is again, quiet now, decorative, held in polished walnut on the curved wall of a lounge car, running its stylized waves from one end of the room to the other in a frieze that will still be running them long after tonight is a memory. There is something the night has taught, or perhaps only reminded, that the wild things and the sheltered things are not opposites, that the storm and the lounge car, the crashing waves and the decorative frieze, the open headland and the warm cabin in the Redwoods, these are not in conflict. They are in conversation. The wildness makes the shelter meaningful. The shelter makes the wildness beautiful. You cannot fully appreciate the amber light and the warm drink and the curved ceiling without the knowledge of the rain on the other side of the glass. And you cannot fully appreciate the rain, its scale, its indifference, its ancient and ongoing participation in the life of this coast, without the warm glass between you and it. The one requires the other. The storm requires its sentinel. The night requires its amber light. The rain requires, somewhere within it, a person with a warm drink and a window paying attention. The train is slowing, very slightly, almost imperceptibly, but the rhythm of the rails has shifted, a subtle lengthening of the interval between the rail joints, or perhaps just a change in the grade beneath you, the train finding the long, shallow descent toward the coastal valley that signals the approach to the final stop. You are not there yet. There is still time, a good while still, the darkness uninterrupted outside, the rain continuing without any sign of relenting. But the slowing, however slight, has its own message. The way the last chapter of a book feels different from the chapters that preceded it, even when nothing in the prose has changed, just the awareness of where you are in the whole that alters the quality of each sentence. You are in the last chapter, and it is a good one. The sconce nearest to you throws its amber fan across the ceiling above and slightly to your left, and in the center of that fan, where the light is most concentrated, there is a color that does not have a precise name. Deeper than gold, warmer than amber, the color of old honey, perhaps, or the heart of a candle flame, or the particular shade that firelight takes when it reflects off polished wood that has been polished for many years by many careful hands. You have been looking at it without looking at it for some time. Your eyes are doing the thing eyes do when the body is nearly ready, moving without tracking, resting on surfaces without fixing to them, the visual field going soft and generous and undemanding. The couple at the far end of the lounge has gone quiet. Not left, still there, their shapes visible in the periphery. But the conversation has ended, and they sit now in the comfortable silence of people who have run out of words, not because they have nothing left to say, but because words are no longer necessary. The book reader has set his book down, face open on the table, and is looking out his window at the streaming dark. The room breathes. The rain on the glass draws its long amber threads. Each one begins somewhere near the top of the window and travels diagonally, pulled by gravity, pushed by the train's motion to the frame at the bottom, where it collects for a moment in a tiny, trembling bead before being carried away. Another follows immediately, and another. The procession is continuous, unhurried, each drop tracing very nearly the same path as the one before it, the window's surface becoming a kind of slow and liquid script that says nothing and means everything. You have watched rain on glass before. many times in many windows in many rooms. But there is something about watching it from inside a moving train at this hour in this light that makes it feel new, or not new exactly, but renewed. As if the familiar thing has been given back to you with some quality restored that ordinary life had quietly worn away. The attention to small things, the capacity to find a window and the rain on it sufficient. The understanding not intellectual but physical, felt in the slowing breath and the loosening shoulders and the warmth of a cup in both hands, that this, precisely this, is enough. Outside, the coastal plain has given way to the first scattered lights of habitation. Not the city yet, that is still ahead, still a future thing, belonging to tomorrow and the morning and the ordinary life that will resume in its own good time. Just the scattered amber points of farmhouses and small settlements, their lights blurred by the rain into soft golden smears against the black, each one a small world of warmth and shelter going about its nighttime business, unaware of the train passing through the dark between them. They are beautiful, those lights, every one of them a room where the rain is also on the window, every one of them a fire or a lamp or a bedside light burning in the particular way that interior lights burn at this hour quietly, without audience, just illuminating the small and sufficient world of the people within. Everyone tonight is inside somewhere. Everyone has found their shelter from the rain, their cabin, their cottage, their carriage, their lounge car with its amber sconces and its Art Deco frieze and its window full of streaming light. This is what autumn does, calls people inward. It draws them to the warm things, the small things, the cups and the blankets and the fires and the particular quality of interior light that only exists in contrast to a dark and rainy outside. You take the last sip of your drink. The warmth of it arrives as all the previous warmth has arrived quietly, from the inside, adding itself to everything already accumulated. You set the cup down on the walnut table and it makes the softest sound, barely a sound at all, just the gentle conclusion of the gesture, the cup finding its resting place. Your hands rest in your lap. The amber light rests on the ceiling above you. The rain rests against the window in its long, streaming lines. And the train moves through the dark coastal plain, unhurried, steady, its wheels counting out their patient rhythm on the rain-wet rails. Click-clack, click-clack. Safe inside, with every mile. The night has been long and it has been generous. It has given you the wild coast and the storm over the headlands. It has given you the lighthouse beam sweeping its patient arc through the rain. It has given you the man in the cabin, the fire in the stove, the redwoods standing in their ancient and unhurried rain. It has given you this room, this light, this window, this warmth. It has given you the rain itself, faithful and continuous, asking nothing, offering everything. And now it is asking something very simple of you, the simplest thing. Let go of the last of it. Whatever remains, whatever small thread of the day is still held somewhere in the body, in the shoulders or the jaw or the place behind the eyes where the day's unfinished thoughts like to linger. Let it go now. The train knows the way. The rain will not stop. The amber light will hold. You are safe inside. With every mile, the rain continues to fall. Let your eyes close if they have not already. There is nothing left to see that you have not already seen. Nothing left to do that you have not already done. The coast has been traveled. The lights have been kept. The tracks have been walked and found sound. The fire has been laid and lit and left to its long, slow burning. Everything is tended. Everything is well. Feel the weight of yourself now. The particular, specific weight of a body that has been held all night by the leather seat, by the warm room, by the amber light and the steady sound of rain, and has finally, completely accepted that holding. Let yourself be heavy. Let the surface beneath you receive all of it. Every last bit of the weight you have been carrying, not just tonight but for all the days before tonight. Let it go downward, into the warmth beneath you, into the deep and reliable support of this moment. The train moves. It will always be moving, somewhere in the part of you that carries this night forward, through the rain and the dark, along the edge of the coast and then gently away from it, through the redwood groves where the inspector sleeps in his chair and the fire breathes its long, amber breath, past the headlands where the lighthouse sends its beam out over the water one more time and one more time and one more time. The train moves and you are on it, warm, still, carried. The rain is the oldest sound, older than the railway, older than the lighthouses and the ships they were built to guide, older than the redwoods, or nearly, and they have stood through 2,000 years of it. The rain has been falling on this coast since before there was anyone to hear it, and it will be falling long after the last train has made its last journey along these cliffs. It is not going anywhere. It will be here when you wake. It will be here in the morning, softer perhaps. The storm gentle to a drizzle that makes the redwood bark gleam and fills the small creeks and settles into the soil with the patience of something that understands exactly where it is going and is in no hurry to get there. But that is morning, and morning is very far away. Right now there is only this, the dark behind your closed eyes, which is not empty, which is full, in the way that the space inside a warm room is full, with the accumulated presence of everything the night has offered. The amber light you can feel even through closed eyelids. The warmth that is entirely, completely yours. The sound of the rain. Click-clack, click-clack, slower now, or perhaps it only seems slower. Perhaps it is you that has slowed your breath, your heartbeat, the quiet electrical hum of a mind that is finally, gratefully, releasing its hold on the day. The coast is out there, dark and magnificent and entirely, beautifully indifferent to whether you are watching it or not. The waves are breaking on the rocks far below the empty tracks. The rain is falling on the headlands and the lighthouse and the redwood canopy and the tin roof of the inspector's cabin where the fire has settled to its deepest, most patient coals. The rain is falling on everything, on all the warm lit windows of all the scattered farmhouses on the coastal plain, on the silver roof of this carriage, on you. Safe inside, with every mile. Let the rain take it now. Let it take the last of the day's wait, the last of the thinking, the last of the holding on. Let it dissolve in the sound of the rain the way everything eventually dissolves, gently, without loss, becoming part of something larger and more patient than itself. You are warm. You are held. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. The train carries you. The rain continues. The amber light holds. And somewhere out over the dark Pacific, the lighthouse sends its beam one more time through the rain once, A pause once again, and the coast receives it as the coast has always received it. The way deep and ancient things receive the small human gestures made in their direction. With patience, with something very like warmth. Sleep now. The rails know the way. The rain will not stop. And when you wake, the coast will still be there, changed and unchanged. The way all beloved things are changed and unchanged by the passage of a night. But that is then. This is now. And now is the rain. And the warmth. And the dark behind your eyes, full and soft and entirely, finally,